Hi, I'm Marissa, and my Ethics in the News presentation is on genetic editing. So first off, what is genetic editing? It's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's specifically referring to human embryos in this case, and the immediate problem would be removing genetic diseases from these embryos. My article is from National Geographic, and what I gathered from the article is, should we be editing human DNA? Is it right to be purposely and permanently changing the lives of these people? The overriding benefit of gene editing is the elimination of disease, especially diseases that don't have treatment options. The first 3 points are pretty much the same thing. There are a lot of issues. Unforeseeable outcomes are close to inevitable, and since it is kind of trial and error, and there hasn't been much trial, there are a lot of problems that could come up. A lot of people think that if research was delayed, improved technology in the future could make it a lot safer, and some of those problems could be predicted a little easier than it could be now. Would gene editing for diseases eventually become gene editing for non-medical purposes? So the article uses the example that, statistically speaking, taller people earn more money than shorter people, and would parents eventually start genetically editing their children to be taller so that they could have a higher chance of being successful? A big problem, especially among Christian deontologists, is, does gene editing amount to playing God? Is it too much to be controlling these people's lives? The moral agents are the scientists working on this, and the doctors and the parents who would be responsible for doing this to the children. Additionally, policymakers regulating gene editing laws would be responsible. Objects of moral worth are all the embryos and eventually the people whose genetics have been changed. And another consideration is the effects that gene editing would have on society. For example, the deaf community doesn't necessarily consider themselves to be disabled, and if there were less deaf people, there'd be less research put into hearing aids and things that would help them. So someone coming from a consequentialist paradigm would probably be all for this, because even if there's risks or problems or you might lose embryos, it's still the elimination of these untreatable diseases, and ultimately it'd be improved even if there are bad things along the way. However, a deontological perspective would probably not like this, because even though there are benefits, it's too much like playing God. It's not natural to do this, and people should be the main concern. And if there are people that are going to be hurt by this, then we just should not do this. So my article obviously comes from a consequentialist standpoint. It argues that genetic editing is unnatural, but this is based on the idea that natural equals good. Our duty is to make decisions for future people so that they can have the best possible lives. The suffering and death by single gene diseases like Huntington's disease caused by just one gene could be completely eliminated. And another interesting perspective is, some people choose not to have children because they know they carry genes that could cause these diseases, and removing the gene would allow them to have families and children. The argument says that despite the risks, gene editing decreases suffering and death, and it ultimately improves the lives of the individuals and society as a whole, and there would be no more genetic diseases like this. Thanks for watching.